So I think when people think about Germany's cultural institutions today, they might think about the opera or soccer matches. And one that might not come to mind but is staggeringly popular and has been throughout Germany's history are zoos. Right now I'm working on a project that looks into the history of the Berlin Zoo, and in particular how it interacts with society and culture around it. The Berlin Zoo was established in 1844. It was one of the first in Europe. And by the end of the 19th century, Germany has more zoos than anybody else in Europe, and considerably more than the United States. And I'm interested in this fascination with zoos, with animal life in captivity, and what Germans thought about the animals and how they were displayed. I think the history of zoos tells us much more about us, about humans, than it does about the animal world. One of the most fascinating aspects for me about the Berlin Zoo is the exhibition of peoples that took place in the late 19th century and into the early 20th century. This is not known to many people, but there were exotic, so-called exotic peoples put on display in the Berlin Zoo and other zoos in Germany and elsewhere to absolutely staggeringly large crowds. One example that I sometimes use is in 1883 when a group of East Indians were put on display in the Berlin Zoo. Nearly 100,000 people visited the zoo on that day. It was a Sunday. This would have been approaching 10% of the entire Berlin population in 1883. So staggeringly popular. And I'm curious as what they thought about these people. This is a world before movies, this is a world before television, this is a world almost before photographs. People in Europe would not have seen others on a large scale like this. They wouldn't have seen exotic animals. And what I'm noticing is this tension. On the one hand, for Germans, there's an openness to the world. They are genuinely curious about the rest of the world, about other peoples, how they live, how they interact, how they speak. So this tension between, on the one hand, an acceptance of other peoples, an interest in other peoples. One thing that happened, for example, at some of these shows is that there was coupling. There were Germans who fell in love with some of the people on display and became romantically involved. We see this openness and interest in the rest of the world. And on the other hand, we see a certain theme of dominance, a certain paternalism as well to other peoples. And this theme, this tension between the two of those, I find particularly compelling, especially given what we know of German history in the 19th and 20th century, where conquest plays such a dominant role.